Hello and welcome to the show. I'm here at the top of Mt Chiliad for some more downhill chaos. The first vehicle today, a slightly unusual one, the Peugeot 508. I saw this car come up. Thought it'd be interesting to have a go with these kind of more normal cars and see how the vehicle would fare. Gotta say, I really do quite like this car. This opening run, I was pushing my luck quite a bit down this opening section and big two-wheel moments on a few occasions, and then an even bigger one going at the end of the small straight there. We've seen many a car roll over. It's actually a little bit of a peculiar one, this Peugeot, because you run the bank on the inside of that corner and the Peugeot will roll over without any trouble, but everywhere else it is very, very planted. There's actually quite a lot of grip and the brakes are pretty powerful. I didn't quite account for that when I went to take the hairpin. I turned it a little too soon. I was kind of expecting it to slide a bit more and so on, and it didn't quite. We may have made a bit of a mess down there. Again, trying to carry the speed through that corner, just clipped the bank on the inside and the car flipped over. I kind of feared we were going to have a similar story with this as I'd had with like the BMW M3 and a few of the other cars that have had a very big tendency to roll over, but it was only at that corner. Everywhere else, and you could do all sorts of crazy things and this thing would remain very planted. So something about that corner the Peugeot did not get along with. Pushing my luck a little bit too hard. There was certainly plenty of speed and plenty of grip in this car. I just took a little bit too much of it. I was trying to get a little bit greedy. Again, that was one of those examples of you make a mistake at one corner and it's about 3/4 down the line where you actually have an accident. Pushing my luck across the jump there, carrying an awful lot of speed, and again chucking it with a lot of speed down this side road. Just can't quite gather it all back up again. Ran a little bit too much on the banking there. Just missed out. But this car, you had a lot of confidence to really sort of throw it at the course. There was enough grip, quite a lot of speed that you really could kind of chuck the car at the course. So that does mean that sometimes when you're pushing it, things do go a little bit wrong. The back end got bouncing around a tad through that section, and this course is so narrow. It is so narrow that a little mistake with whatever vehicle, chances are you're going to have an accident. Sometimes you go up the mountain, other times, like that one there, you just kind of park across the road. Didn't take too long though to get a clean run with the Peugeot, and as I said, you really could throw a lot of speed through these corners. You could be incredibly aggressive with this car. The likes that I haven't seen in a vehicle for quite some time down this course. It's not the most amazingly powerful vehicle that I've driven, but there was lots of grip, the brakes were good, and you could make the most of the speed that it had. You could really seriously push this car hard. And as I said, the rolling over, once you got past that first rollover spot, it never happened again. It never went up on two wheels again. So I guess the way that the banking is down there, if you just get it unhappy, if you get it far enough on two wheels, it'll go over. But the rest of the course, the bankings, or I don't hit the bankings in a way to upset it. So yeah, that was one thing you had to watch out though. The rest of the run, as you can see, it deals with it incredibly well. The bumps and the jumps, the landings are no issue for the Peugeot. We don't have any suspension problems down there. You could carry good speed. Of course, you can't be flat out down there. You try it, you are going to have a little bit of an off. I do carry a bit too much speed down this little side road, but again, it's remarkable that I managed to get it all under control. I'm still not sure how I stopped that from having a huge accident. It's around the final corner and across the line for the Peugeot. There we go for a tumble after crossing the line. I have no idea how coming up towards down that final hill how I got away with so much, but the grip and the brakes in this thing are very, very impressive. And when things do get a little bit bumpy, you don't suddenly lose all control of it and have a big accident. So yeah, this was an incredibly good car. I was not expecting all that from the Peugeot particularly. I wasn't quite expecting it to be as good as it was. I love how the mountain biker is still there taking a photo, having completely and utterly ignored the Peugeot go flying past behind him. The bumper may have been slightly damaged. All of the damage, though, was done after crossing the line. When we take this sort of finishing jump area with the speed that we're doing and kind of the angles that are involved here off of the car, take a little bit of a whack. Up next, we have got the Ford F150. It's the same as the trophy truck handling for this vehicle, the same one I used in the Versus the Army. So it is very powerful and got pretty soft suspension that should be pretty good for dealing with this kind of course. Now, off-road vehicles, proper off-road vehicles, have tended to do pretty well down here. The Brawler and Insurgent were both very, very fast, getting down Chiliad, I was kind of expecting a similar thing from the Raptor. Admittedly, things went a little bit wrong on this first run. I was trying to make sure I didn't end up in the bushes, stuck a wheel slightly over the edge, and the underside of the car gets caught on the rocks. I think we had a car do it last week. I can't remember which one it was now. That yeah, if you have a wheel over the edge, the back of the truck will get caught, it'll get flung up into the air, and that's when you have an incident. And then trying to get it stopped, I couldn't stop it from going down the hill. It actually surprised me. I would have thought that this thing with its power and four-wheel drive and so on would have been able to try and rectify that, but apparently not. Now, there was, as I said, plenty of power in this thing. It is a very, very quick truck. I was having a few difficulties actually using it. I may have got things slightly wrong on the landing that time around. Just sort of landed a bit awkwardly. It was enough to bounce the truck back up, and then we went for a big roll in this, and again, trying to get it stopped. There is a slight lack of grip in the Ford. It does around the really tight sections. I think this course is just too tight, really, to make the most of the Raptor's strong points. We do struggle with the grip. The suspension can be a little bit bouncy on the landing there. Admittedly, I was taking quite a bit of speed. It did slightly bounce me back up into the air, and again, we go for a big roll, a very commonplace to have spectacular crashes down there. The speeds involved and the demands of that landing, and then sort of straight afterwards there's a corner that can often cause issues for vehicles, and this is no exception for this one. Again, curse of the hikers in full effect coming through turn one there. I pushed it a little too hard under the brakes, splattered some hikers, and then instantly got thrown off the mountain. It does tumble pretty well. When it gets going, it does tumble very, very well. Unfortunately, there is no engine sort of map or model or whatever on this vehicle. It's just a black hole in the... Maybe it is black hole powered. This thing, yeah, it's couldn't get it back under control again. It was a strange one. I was expecting this to be a lot better on this sort of course. It just wasn't quite... I don't know, it's really hard. I've been racking my brains trying to think what it is about this, why it didn't quite work down this course. Again, similar thing, ran a little bit too wide, back of the truck gets bounced up into the air, and while I was busy sorting all of that out, managed to miss my braking point for the next corner. Yeah, I didn't like that bit, if you ran a little bit too wide. Yeah, I can't quite figure out what it is with this vehicle. It's just a bit of an awkward one. Running a little bit wide into this section is always going to cause you trouble, and sure enough, it is Raptor off down the mountain. I'm on the brakes. I'm trying to get it slowed down here, but of course it's not going to do much good when you're in the air. Now we're starting to twist, and that's never a good thing. Just trying to regain control of your vehicle, and it's spinning around, and we're going to go for another tumble, and we're going to start cartwheeling. It does eventually, at some point, will come to a rest. It doesn't really get stopped that well when things go a little bit wrong down here. We've seen some vehicles do really, really well at managing to get it stopped when everything's all out of control. This one, not so much. Admittedly, you are tending to go quite fast when bits go a little bit out of control. I managed to get away with running a little bit wide on the landing of the jump. The problem was I was got so much overspeed, I couldn't quite get it aligned for that final run, which yeah, we ended up kind of running the banking sideways and just couldn't bring the truck back under control. It took a little while to get the hang of driving this vehicle. Yeah, it was just something about it didn't like this course. I think this course is just too narrow for this sort of vehicle to really excel. It's a great off-road vehicle, don't get me wrong, but I think on a course like this, there's something about it. Something about it is not like navigating around here. I don't think there's just not quite the grip to deal with the power and to deal with the incredibly tight corners that this course has to offer. I didn't have any problems with rolling over, interestingly, aside from, when I was tumbling down the side of a mountain, but, everything's going to do that when you go flying off here at high speeds. I didn't have any problems with, like clipping the bankings, like you saw with the Peugeot. When I clipped the bankings, that thing would go over. This was remarkably stable, and again, you could get away with stuff sort of down here. If you clip the bankings, it wasn't going to roll over unless you were like being really, really stupid. So yeah, very, very stable truck. But you kind of saw there when I was trying to get on the power, it just kind of wants to slide and skid around, and you're just wasting time when the truck's doing that. I think I had to be quite cautious with this at some points. I couldn't attack the course in the same way that you could with the Peugeot. You just couldn't quite get away with that in the Raptor because it didn't really have the grip. It had the speed, but it didn't really have the grip as we come down this side road. The way that I got through there in the Peugeot, I will admit there was a fair bit of luck in that. I'd like to think some skill in keeping it under control, but I just couldn't do that with the Raptor because we wouldn't have the brakes or the grip to get it stopped. It is around the final corner and across the line for the Raptor. Again, we get it pinged off the tree. We kind of bend up all of the back of the truck in that one. Yeah, it's a great off-road vehicle. This one, don't get me wrong, it can deal with an awful lot, and there's plenty of power for climbing back up the mountain if you so wanted. But trying to race quickly down it, we don't have the grip. There is just not enough grip in the Raptor to really attack the course. Our final vehicle is an interesting one. I saw this, it had to go down the mountain. It's a Ford Model T. Yep, the Model T is going to have a go at going down Mt Chiliad because why on earth not? It's got a custom handling file, so it's not exactly the fastest accelerating car or the top speed. I love how when it sets off, people can walk. Usually that's some power walking going on. They can walk faster than this. It'll top out at about 40 miles an hour on flat ground. Going down here, I think I might got up to almost 50 going downhill at one point, which is about right for what a Model T would be capable of doing. It's just a really, really silly sight, seeing this thing go down the mountain. Unfortunately, because of its lack of power, the bushes are a real issue. Now, we've seen the bushes will often sort of slow cars down slightly. It's sort of enough to tip them sideways at some points. In this, it's pretty much enough to stop it dead. So I had to be really careful of them. Again, I clip the bushes on the inside. It flicks the car massively sideways, and then we sort of lose the back end. There's not a huge amount of grip in this vehicle either. As you can probably imagine, it was, yeah, quite a surreal thing driving this down Chiliad. Again, you see the bushes. I'm minding my own business and then sudden stop and flick it sideways. It actually stopped it before we ever got to the jump there. I've never had a vehicle so negatively affected by the bushes. I mean, they often get slowed down a bit, but nothing quite as much as this. Very nearly managed to roll the Model T on the landing of the jump. Didn't quite like that one. Again, I was trying to carry some speed, got things a little bit wrong, and again, similar story down here, trying to carry the speed, slightly misjudge it, get clipped by the bush, and we're going to go round. Almost managed to save it, not quite. And now we managed to roll the Ford Model T, and now we're going backwards and absolutely no control when it's doing all of that and twisting, and we will eventually come to a rest, much like the Raptor. Once this thing's off the mountain, it's not really going to stop until it hits a tree or a rock somewhere. I pushed my luck across the jump that time round. You can see I was barely in control. We do probably go for a first, though. The world's first front flip with a Ford Model T. I can't imagine it's done one of them before, and we managed to land it. Helped largely by the bush stopping us once we got on the landing there. Yeah, I was pretty pleased with that stunt. I probably couldn't do it again if I tried, but we got a front flip in the Ford Model T, which is, yeah, I'd say pretty damn impressive. It took a little bit to get the hang of this vehicle. As I said, there's not a huge amount of grip, and certainly once you do get it going downhill, you can get it up to okay speeds. It's not the most ridiculous vehicle though that we've had to drive in. Honestly, the Raptor is probably a little bit more difficult because most of the time you're not really going that fast. There's not really the power to get it up to any speeds that it would struggle with. So yeah, you got to be a little bit careful. It's mainly just avoiding the bushes. I could get it quite a long way up on two wheels through that section, but it was never likely to roll. It just didn't have the speed to really properly roll. It was just, you had to be aware of where all of the bushes, like here, you can't afford to run a little bit wide. You know, in the more powerful cars, if you run wide through the bushes, it doesn't matter. On the most part, they've got more than enough power to pull themselves out of it. But with this, it doesn't. So you have to be really very, very careful across some of these corners. We actually dealt with the landings of the jumps surprisingly well. We didn't have too many issues with this car being a pain again through here. You can't afford to try and cut the inside there because you will hit one of those great bushes and it will stop you absolutely dead. Getting across, that's a very sizable jump that the Model T deals with remarkably well. We get a little bit sideways and a little bit on two wheels coming down this long straight up to 50 miles an hour in the Model T. We get a little bit lucky on the landing again. I mean, you could get away with carrying the speed down there. Just had to be careful on the landing, and this time around I got it right. Avoided the bushes up towards this second to last corner. or wary of the bumps down here, but again, you're never really attacking it fast enough to do any serious problems. And then it is the Ford across the line. Maybe not the most spectacular of runs I've ever had down Chiliad. It was good fun though. I did like having this vehicle to play around with. Oh, and then I tried to go and park it by normal parking spot for these. There is a slight problem as it goes to change from first to second gear. It doesn't really have the power to keep going. So you have to kind of keep it. I was very confused as to what was going on. You have to kind of keep it in first, otherwise it would, otherwise it would just stall out. Little bit weird the way the gearing's, I guess the way the gearing's been worked to give it sort of the realistic power, if you like. So yeah, had to kind of hold it in first and kind of coast your way up the hill if you wanted to make it up. Maybe not the best vehicle for trying to get up Chiliad, but as far as going down it, there wasn't any major issues aside from the lack of power and the ability for the sticky bushes to catch the Model T. Yeah, it was an experience, certainly, and having the first front flip with one of them, I think is still quite impressive. On to the times, and I said the Peugeot was good, its time proves that, a 1:24.2, that is 0.2 of a second off the Osiris. That's how quick that Peugeot was. I will be honest, I got quite lucky on that final section. That could have gone a lot worse. I did carry a stupid amount of speed, but the Peugeot does give you confidence, and it was capable of braking and getting it turned and so on. It's quicker than the Karuma, the Evo 6, the Aston Martin GT3 car. It's not that far off a Cheetah, only a couple of seconds off the Cheetah. That was the top speed modded Cheetah as well. So yeah, that is a quick time. That is a quick time from the Peugeot. The Ford, as I said, a bit of a disappointment. Bit of a disappointment for the Ford. A 1:32.1 puts it slower than the Space Docker down here, slower than the Volvo. It's a little bit quicker than the Dodge Challenger and the Faction Lowrider. It's just a too tighter, too narrow a course, and the Ford doesn't have the grip to deal with all of its power. It's just that little bit awkward. Yeah, the suspension is good, but it doesn't have the grip to deal with dismounting. Sort of more open off-roading, that trophy truck Raptor is really very, very good. And the Model T, well, it is down at the bottom. Perhaps not a huge surprise. It does get beaten by the 2CV. I thought the pair of them might be close on this table. Yeah, it does get beaten by the 2CV. Amusingly, it is 10 seconds faster than an RX-7 drift car. The RX-7 got beaten by a Model T Ford. I do find that a little bit amusing. Yeah, it's not got any speed and the bushes are horrendous. It's not a particular surprise down at the bottom there. An interesting experience though to drive something like that in a GTA 5. Anyway, that is it for this video. I'll put a link to all of the mods that I have used in the description so you can download them. Have a go with them yourself, but that is it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.